all those classic mishmash cards that Joey used throughout the anime. Now, answer this. How many of those individual cards have spun off into full-fledged decks of their own? We already did this for Yugi and for Kaiba, and the bulk of it is Yugi has a whopping 20 decks now in the real world spun off from all of these individual monsters. Kaiba, on the other hand, he didn't have very many, around 5 in total. So, as the third most important character in the franchise, how many decks does Joey Wheeler have? Well, not that many. And honestly, it's a little bit of a shame because Joey has a lot of iconic cards in his repertoire, and it would be nice if they each had their own decks, or a bunch of them got spun off into a deck themselves. But I guess then the question becomes, well, what has he got decks of now and what hasn't he? Let's find out. Red Eye's Black Dragon deck. Now, Red Eyes was one off of Rex Raptor during the Duelist Kingdom story. After this, Red Eyes became Joey's ace and symbol of his deck, representing the potential for victory. Naturally, with how popular Red Eyes Black Dragon was, of course, it was going to get its own dedicated cards and deck. We had support as early as Duel Monsters, with cards like Lord of the Red and Paladin of Dark Dragon. And then there was a character in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX who played a fully dedicated Red Eyes Black Dragon deck. His deck included cards like Red Eyes Darkness Dragon and Red Eyes Black Chick. Ultimately though, it wouldn't be till much later we would start getting big new support cards. Cards such as Red Eyes Flame Metal Dragon, Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, Red Eyes Fusion, Meteor Black Dragon, among others. We even got references to team-ups, like do you remember when Yugi and Joey worked together, fusing their Summon Skull and Red Eyes to make Black Skull Dragon? Well, nowadays we have an uber powerful version similar to that with Red Eyes and Dark Magician. You smush those together and you get Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. And this monster is pretty nuts. And luckily, Red Eyes brought another one of Joey's monsters into the archetype. Remember Gearfried the Iron Knight? Well, it's got a Red Eyes Gearfried the Iron Knight variant form, so technically, Gearfried did make it into one of these support cards. Now, unfortunately for Red Eyes, out of the big three when compared to Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragon decks, it's the worst supported. The problem is, it doesn't really know what it's trying to do with its life. Like, Blue Eyes has been really supported recently, so it's doing really well. Dark Magician needs some help. Red Eyes is literally gasping for air. It needs something to sort of bring the archetype together. It also needs some like link monsters and things like that, so definitely needs some more support in the future, but it's nice that there is a Red Eyes Black Dragon deck in the modern day. Following on from this, we have Metal Morph deck. This deck is a Red Eyes adjacent deck, since Red Eyes does appear in this, but it's all part of the Metal Morph archetype. This archetype is new, and technically it's a Joey and Bandit Keith hybrid deck. You see, the Metal Morph deck all revolves around the Metal Morph card that was originally played in the duel between Bandit Keith and Joey Wheeler. Bandit Keith used it on his Zoa to make Metal Zoa, whereas Joey, who had stole Metal Morph from Keith, used it on his own Red Eyes to make Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon. In fact, a bunch of other cards that appeared in that duel would also make an appearance in this archetype. We have Red Eyes and Metal Claws becoming Red Eyes Metal Claw Dragon and Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon. We have Zoa becoming Metal Zoa X, Copycat becoming Metal Illusionist, Flame Swordsman becoming Metal Flame Swordsman, and Time Machine becoming Time Engine. Honestly, what I'd really love to see is Barrel Dragon and Slot Machine becoming a part of this archetype too. Technically, it is a Joey deck, even though it's just as much as a Bandit Keith deck as well, but it does have more of Joey's cards than Bandit Keith, so it's technically more of a Joey deck if you want to go that route. That's 2 decks for Joey so far. Flame Swordsman deck. Now, if you'll remember, Joey Wheeler did say that the Flame Swordsman was a monster that represented his own personality. And while it saw a lot of play early on in the anime, we saw less and less of it as the series progressed. However, in that time, it established itself as a very iconic card. The last card we saw in the anime that supported the Flame Swordsman was probably Blue Flame Swordsman. Nowadays, Flame Swordsman spun off into its own Flame Swordsman deck. We've got monsters like Ferocious, Fighting, and Ultimate Flame Swordsman, as well as other Joey iconic cards appearing in this deck, like Salamandra and Kunai with Chain. I always thought that Joey felt like more of a warrior deck kind of person. I never felt like a Red Eyes Black Dragon deck fit Joey. I'd be fine with him having a Red Eyes deck and a Flame Swordsman deck, but yeah, I just always associated his deck more with warriors. So it's nice that his Flame Swordsman spun off into such a cool archetype. Now, following this, we're going to start grasping at straws a little bit here. Time Wizard 1000 Dragon deck. Now, Joey received Time Wizard on the boat ride to Duelist Kingdom from Yugioh. This was in order to help him out during the tournament, as the Time Wizard was a rare card. He would use this monster alongside Baby Dragon to wipe out the opponent's entire field and then transform Baby Dragon into 1000 Dragon, essentially tying these two monsters together. Fast forward to nowadays, and while I can barely call it a deck since it's only just a couple of cards, you technically can make a deck around it. It won't be very good, but you can play it. With new cards like Time Wizard of Tomorrow and 100 Year Dragon, and if you're going to incorporate these as well, another card you can use in the deck is a monster called Alligator Sword Dragon. Since this fuses with Baby Dragon, because the 1000 Dragon series of cards is technically a part of this archetype, then I guess we could also include Alligator Sword. If we get more support for this deck in the future, which we absolutely should, Time Wizard is such an iconic card in the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise. Same with 1000 Dragon to a lesser degree, but they're tied together. More 1000 Dragon cards, more Time Wizard cards, incorporate Alligator Sword, give it like a retrain or something like that, make it all part, give me some new fusions, give me a field spell, give me a Link 1 Time Wizard or something. I don't know, something that helps the Time Wizard roulette, something along them lines, but pretty cool. Just about makes the cut for a deck. Now, moving on from this, we have another, it's just about a deck, I guess, and that is Claw of Hermos deck. After Joey got the Claw of Hermos in the Waking the Dragons arc, he got access to a bunch of fusion equip cards. The way you make these cards, you get the Claw of Hermos, you get any monster you want, you smush them together, it makes a unique equip card that you equip onto another monster. Honestly, it's a lot of resources, but it's something you can play. So if you want to play this deck, you've got to play the Claw of Hermos, all of the fusions that these cards make, and then the corresponding monsters to make those monsters, which are more generic in the real world, so it's not so bad. The fusions are Rocket Hermos Express, Time Magic Hammer, Red Eyes Black Dragon Sword, Big Bang Dragon Blow, and Goddess Bow. And with those 5, those are the true Joey Wheeler decks that exist in the real world now. However, it's not the only ones. But the problem with these next few is you definitely can argue, they're not really Joey's decks. I'll show you what I mean. It's worth noting that Joey won 3 cards off of opponents in Battle City: Jinzo, Legendary Fisherman, and Insect Queen. So you can make a case that these 3 monsters, which all got their own decks that they spun off into, that's 3 more Joey decks we could have in the real world. However, I feel more inclined to say that these are a Mako Tsunami deck, a Esperoba deck, and of course a Weevil Underwood deck. But I guess if you go by that logic as well, you almost could say that Red Eyes Black Dragon is a Rex Raptor deck, but Joey had it so long in the series, it's his card now, so that doesn't make any sense. I guess the problem is you don't really see too much of Jinzo, Legendary Fisherman, and Insect Queen after Battle City. It's like they vanish. So that's the only problem with it. Jinzo deck, it exists. Stop all your opponent's trap cards. An Insect deck, it's a bit more generic, but there's like Metamorphosized Insect Queen and all that, and that new Cocoon of Evolution card, so that deck does exist. And of course, a Legendary Fisherman deck, also known as a Umi deck, that does exist. One last thing I'll give to Joey. In the first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, one of the just random monsters he had in his hand was Kagemusha of the Blue Flame. Kagemusha of the Blue Flame appears in one of the artworks of the 6 Samurai series of cards, which you could make the case for being the inspiration for 6 Samurai. It was definitely not, but I mean, it's in there, so you never know. Joey's Kagemusha of the Blue Flame spun off into the 6 Samurai archetype. I find that very hard to believe because we never see Kagemusha of the Blue Flame summoned by Joey ever again. Could just be like one of those random cards that have early game, but regardless, what are we missing? What hasn't Joey had spun off from his iconic cards? Well, he's got his Graceful and Skull Dice. These seem very iconic to him. I would like to see more of those. I think they could fit into a Swordsman of Landstar deck. A bit more support for them, give them a full-fledged deck. I could see that being a cool thing. Gearfried the Iron Knight I would like, but it does appear in the Red Eyes archetype, so I guess it's fine. Gilford the Lightning. This was Joey's like boss monster for a while in the series, then it just kind of disappeared. Could we see more of this? It's a cool monster. It's got a really powerful effect. Show me more. Panther Warrior and Rocket Warrior, Grave Robber, Roulette Spider, and, well, a bunch of other cards. But I guess you could just make like another archetype and put all of Joey's iconic cards he used through Battle City and references and stuff into there. And that's a good way to actually incorporate Jinzo, Legendary Fisherman, and Insect Queen into like a United Joey themed deck, like the Shining Sarcophagus kind of thing that has like the gadgets in and things like that. So I don't know, that'd be kind of cool. Regardless, with that is it. I hope you enjoyed the video. This was much more rambly than I thought it would be. I hope you don't mind, but other than that, thank you very much for watching. Catch you later.